Good morning, students. This is a short video on the uterine tube. Viva on the uterine. What may be the possible questions which an examiner asks usually during the practical examination in the gross anatomy. Now for orientation, this is the L4, L5, the intervertebral disc between L4 and L5, lumbosacral intervertebral disc. This is the sacrum and this is the coccyx. This is the uterus, okay, body of the uterus, cervix, urinary bladder, pubic symphysis, and most posteriorly place is the rectum is here, okay. So this is the mid-sagittal section of the pelvis. And since we are going for that of the Viva onto the uterine tube is present, okay. The first question which an examiner can ask is what are the uterine tubes? That is because there is a right and the left uterine tube. The question may be what are the uterine tube? You should answer that the uterine tubes are the ducts, right and left ducts, okay, attached to the lateral margin of the uterus at the junction of the fundus and the body of the uterus. And this uterine tube are the ducts. They transmit the ova from ovaries to the uterine cavity. This is the uterine cavity where ultimately the ova is transmitted, okay. Now then, this uterine tube is present at the upper margin of the broad ligament. You can see that this is the anterior surface of the broad ligament, this is the posterior surface of the broad ligament, and this is the upper margin of the broad ligament on which this uterine tube is present here. You can see the whole length of the uterine tube here in this, okay, it is in my hand. Now then the question may be that what is the length of each tubes, right or left uterine tube? You should answer that the length of the uterine tube is about 10 centimeter, and as it is present onto the upper margin of the free margin of the broad ligaments, okay. Now then he may ask that since it is a 10 centimeter long tube, what are its ends? You should say that it has a lateral end, okay, and then it has a medial end. The medial end is attached to that of the uterus, okay. It is the medial end it opens into the lateral angle of the uterine cavity. Here is the uterine cavity and its lateral angle. There will be opening of the uterine tube, okay, here. That is its medial angle. The lateral angle or lateral end of the uterine tube or the oviduct or fallopian tube, here it is the fimbriated end, okay. It is the lateral end. It is called as fimbriated end. And this is the opening, or this end opens into the peritoneal cavity, okay. This end lies very close to the ovary. See, this is the posterior surface of broad ligament and this is the ovary, and this fimbriated end which has the finger-like projections or process, here not very well seen, but these are the finger-like projection which are very close to the ovary, okay. It is attached close to the ovary. Now this end which is the fimbriated end, okay, it is finger-like process are called as the fimbria, okay, they are fimbria. Now then the second question after the ends of the fallopian tube will be that what are the parts of this 10 centimeter long muscular tube? You can say that from lateral to medial, most lateral is the infundibulum, and this infundibular part is of hardly 1 centimeter long, okay. And this is funnel shaped. It has an ostium or opening, okay, which opens into the uterine cavity, the peritoneal cavity, okay. And this end that is fimbriated and it lies close to that of the ovary. Then the second part of the fallopian tube, okay, just medial to that of fimbriated end is the ampullary part. You can say that. See this is a tortuous part, okay, wavy, and it is the most dilated part of the uterine tube, widest and dilated because it is about 5 centimeter long part. So it is the longest part of the fallopian tube. Now this and that is the ampullary part, which is 5 centimeter dilated part, is the site for the fertilization also. So here the fertilization takes place when the ovum comes to the uterine tube. Most common site for fertilization. The third part, which lies medial to that of the ampullary part, is the isthmus, and it is about 3 centimeter long, which is the narrowest part, okay, and it is thick muscular tube, and it lies just lateral to that of the uterus. Now, the fourth part is the intramural part or the interstitial part, and this is present within the wall of the uterus, okay, within, and this part opens inside the uterine cavity. The opening of the uterine tube in this uterus demarcates, that means the part lying above this opening is the fundus, and the part is the below it opening is called as the body of the uterus, okay, body of the uterus. Now then, a last question may be that what is the applied importance of this uterine tube? You may say that there may be a blockage in the uterine tube so that the ovum may not be transmitted from the fimbriated end towards that of the uterine cavity. So a lady may fail to conceive, or the pregnancy may not continue even if the fertilization has taken place because of the blockage. And this blockage is very well identified by a simple test called as the histosalpingography, where a dye is injected into the uterine cavity, which passes through the uterine tube and then ultimately comes out into the peritoneal cavity. If there is a blockage, it will not come to the peritoneal cavity. Then, second applied importance you should tell about this fallopian tube is that this is the site where the the tubectomy operation are done. That means a part of the fallopian tube is cut here so that the family planning surgery, where the lady will not get conceived because there is no continuity of fallopian tube, where the fertilized ovum can be transmitted to the uterine cavity, okay. So this is about the fallopian tube, okay. Thank you very much for watching a video on to the fallopian tubes.